Okay, so I created a weird recording. I'm re-recording the recording right now because it didn't save. But I want to edit it so I can put it on YouTube into my archive. Now here's the thing. I don't know Twitch terms of service. I don't know them. I just come here to education. Mystical glee. It means I am a fool. With lots and lots and lots of O's. I am a fool. That is what I come here to do. To fool. Nothing's currently happening right now because I only turned this on to say a couple sentences. But let's show what I am writing right now. Come on, you stupid little URL. Come over here. Where I can see you. Yes! Little URL where I can see you. Now we have a window for this. It's called Window Grab. Technology. The technology is alive. Why is it so tiny? Unlock that. Lock that one. The point is this. Technology is alive. We are in the mind. This is my trip. Oh, look. Okay. Technology is alive. Technical difficulty. It has to be the meaning of life. Literally, I experienced dream enlightenment consisting only of this. Technology being difficult. I am in I Squad. I stands for information. I stands for me. I stands for I. I am I. IT is information therapy. Hey, we don't worry about this technical difficult problem. This is the meaning of life. When we create information therapy, we create troubleshooting. When there is trouble, we do shooting. We shoot the trouble, and this is what happens. We don't worry anymore. We say, so this is how troubleshooting works. This is turning into an episode of what is called Off the Cusp, where I ramble. That's what off the cusp means. It means I tell you information, amusing information. Because this is my craft, adventure. I'm making this so I can listen to it later and write it down and like show it to people and stuff, but like they're gonna look at it after I'm dead and stuff, so I'm gonna show it to people, but I am people. Like, I'm gonna die, but I will have made this. And some people will watch this or listen to it or whatever, but they don't want to do it while I'm alive. So what were we talking about? Troubleshooting, shooting trouble, shooting problems. The meaning of life. Let's go back to the message I wrote about this. Life is difficult. Technology. We use it for the purpose of information, and it is difficult to do. And sometimes it works, and then we have happy, good, happy. Like Stanley pushing the button. That's what makes Stanley happy, is pushing the button. Clearly, that's the message of the Stanley parable, is that pushing the button makes him happy. This game speaks to me at a level I can't barely even translate into words. Because the Stanley's job is pushing the button, okay? So he goes to his office, sit at a desk, and this is what he does. He pushes the button. It's Stanley's magic touch. This week I've been going to people playing Stanley Parable to talk to them about Stanley, because I love Stanley. He lives in me. I am Stanley. I am in the mind of Stanley, it feels like. So the game Stanley Parable speaks to me at this level. It's an incredible level. All this time we're having a scene here with nothing but this stupid technology as a live text. Because what did I do with this thing? I covered the entire picture. I have this really cool Stanley Parable thing. I'm talking about Stanley and technology here. The reason why I'm doing this is because the first volume of what I've made is a starting point. It's like an origin. It's like the ground we're going to stand on to do any of the other stuff I'm going to do with my art. Which is explaining amusing information to you. So this is what Stanley does. He pushes the buttons. He has a magic touch, and he goes around touching everything in the office, and he tries to find where everyone went. Basically, his job is to push the button. Okay, the core message of the Stanley Parable is to understand the meaning of life, to understand the meaning of what Stanley is doing, why he's doing it, and how he's doing it. Technology is like super duper alive, and Stanley goes into his office and goes on the computer. The computer tells him to push the buttons, and his job is to push the button. That's what he goes there to do. That's the currency being exchanged, is the screen needs him to push buttons, and so he does it. Something comes up on the screen, Stanley has to push a button in response to what comes up on the screen. That's how it works. It's predicated upon there being something that needs doing, and somebody to do the thing, to push the button. A Stanley to push the button. So Stanley, this is the skill that Stanley has, button pushing and screen reading. These are the two things that occur. so that Stanley can work. Supposing that there wasn't a screen, but there was buttons. Stanley could push the buttons, but he would then have to make a choice. He would then have to select what buttons to push, and under this premise, it's a puzzle. Under this premise, the puzzle is, well, okay, so there are buttons to be pushed, but there are no instructions describing which buttons to push. For what reason, or when, or why. There's absolutely no structure to the button pushing whatsoever if there were to be no screen and no instructions for Stanley. So that situation of button pushing wouldn't be a job. That would be button pushing for recreation, strictly for fun. Because in order to have fun, Stanley needs to essentially push whichever buttons that he wants to push, rather than the buttons that the screen's telling him. Because here's the thing, there is no screen. If there is a screen telling you to push the button, okay, you can push the button, you can obey the screen, you can obey the narrator. But supposing there isn't, supposing there is no screen, supposing there is no narrator, you suddenly escape. You are the Slime Man. You are Stanley. At that point, pushing the button happens of itself. That's the sudden escape. That's the Slime Man. The Stanley Parable is just so eternal. It's one of the greatest images in the Stanley Parable is where Stanley's running along and he, instead of continuing into the same door he's going into, that he's gone into over and over, because here's the thing, hesitation. As you go through the doors that are in Stanley's office, you start to notice that they close. You walk through the door closes. This is a Zen image, because when you walk through a door, turn around and realize there was never a door. That's one of the images for Zen, for understanding the direct pointing to the human mind. But there's actually a lot of situations in Stanley Parable that are like this, where once you notice the motion of the doors, the way the doors close, the way they can be opened or closed if you push the button, the door button, two things are possible. There are certain doors you are able to, what's the word I'm looking for? This is fructose. You're able to fool the door. You're able to bamboozle it. That's the word I was looking for. You bamboozle the boss's office door. The boss's office door bamboozle is such. Stanley goes to enter the boss's office, except he doesn't. He backs up instead of going. Boss's office door closes. Narrator is gone. This is the sudden escape. Stanley, the door is closed, so he cannot go through the freedom ending at this point. So what you do is you go back. You go all the way back to the set of two open doors. Only one of them is open. You can't go take any other paths. The path you've taken is there. You go back through it. and a new door is available. Through that door is an elevator and a stair architecture. And what Stanley does here is climbs the stairs from something like floor 780. And there's quite a bit of climbing till you presumably reach what is the top at these stairs. Every single floor is identical, supposing the office, Stanley's office, is eternal and is a construct of something. It's a construct of button pushing. It's a construct of what it means to live, to experience, to have XP, to have adventure, to have a story. But the narrator's gone when you hesitate, when you go to the boss's door, but you don't go. The boss's door closes, you go back to the beginning, you climb the stairs, and you suddenly escape. The whole parable is describing Stanley's button-pushing actualization, his technological aliveness, and his eternal suchness, essentially. I'm currently in an idea pile state for the second Adventure Basics collection, which must get made. This must happen. This is the interpolation of Zen, of psychedelic, mystic shamanism through alive technology and through the parable. Parable is the only word that is able to convey what I'm doing with the adventure format here. So this session is a draft for where we go. I've crafted the first session of Stanley. Someone Was Fooling Stanley is the title of this series. It was very, very clear that that was the title. Right away, it was instantly apparent someone was fooling Stanley, is what describes what I'm doing with Stanley Parable and philosophy, education, art here. So let's pull up the Stanley's Haunt. Did we make the point about the technology being alive? Did I complete this thread? Yeah, Stanley pushing the button. That's difficult technology. I have dreams about this. Technology doesn't work in dreams, and Stanley Parable does something with this. It speaks to that piece of my brain, is what allowed this whole thing to come to life.